the money you would get, it is trading in the market at 75% of the value. Would we go to the market and say we are selling this company at market price really? Even I will give the final example of a company that has no government attachment. Take a company like Diamond Trust Bank, a company which is a bank with 100 billion shillings in shareholders' funds or core capital. If you buy the share today in the market, it is trading at 32% of that value. Would you go to Happy Bank to tell them to sell you the share in the market price? Would they agree? It has never happened in the market and elsewhere. Currently in the US, there is an ongoing bid of a company called Warner Brothers Discovery, the owner of CNN. But they are not selling in the market. There is a bid, and the final bid is two companies, one called Paramount and Netflix. Then, this jargon about the market, a sophisticated market like the US is seeing the value of in competitive bidding in a private company. But here in Kenya, we have been cornered by our buyers, and we are now talking the language of market price. It will be wrong, and history will not judge us very well if you continue with this transaction with this kind of consideration. Second, I have already heard of that process. Chair, 6 billion shares we are selling with our population. It means the government is selling my 100 shares as did in Europe. If you divide the shares we are selling, Chair, and you give Kenyans their share, everyone in this hall, because we are all Kenyans, today will be allocated 100 shares. So we must look at it that way. So my 100 shares, what is the process that has been taken for the buyer to be identified? What was the process? How did you one day wake up and decide we are going to sell to the current buyer? I will highlight just a few because I know there will be questions. Let me go to the next one. There is something in the market for any transaction to work.
For any transaction to work efficiently, Chair, there is something called information symmetry. Now, we are selling our stake of 15% to a company who is already inside Safaricom, who are already having board members. So definitely, they already have a step ahead of any other person who would think of buying our stake because of the information asymmetry. That is something else that we have to look at. Chair, allow me so that I go, this other point I think is the main one that brought me here. So before I go to that one, this is your valuation. Let me just recap a little bit in 1 minute. So, beyond the market, can we get the government of Kenya, when they conceptualized this issue of selling our stake, which valuation methods did they employ? Who did they hire to do the valuation? When did they hire those people? Because listening to the proceedings in the previous appearances, I heard about KCB and a framework contract. But Chairman, I would want to see that framework contract because I've been listening so that I don't waste your time. And
Mheshimiwa, I think, yes, Treasury did make that, and as a committee, we have requested for that framework. So, and I'm sure as a member of Parliament, you will definitely have access to that once it's right.
Thank you very much, Chair. You know the reason I'm asking that, Chair? The day of the announcement of this deal, it became unwholesome. This is not how even transactions have been done previously. You come and bombard the market with information, and then immediately you're already announcing the price. So who determined that price? Who are these people who are hired to determine this price? That is something we have to interrogate. So there are various variations. That is what I'm trying to arrive at. In telcos, you can do EBITDA times, depends on how many times it is. But let me use the most simple manner and parameter of diversified as Safaricom PLC. Chairman, if you want the easiest price of earning ratio, it's called PE ratio. Safaricom, remember this financial year, they are having a blockbuster increment in profit. Chair. So, we are selling our cow just immediately when it is coming out of the woods. What do I mean about the woods? Conveniently, the market has been bearish, but Safaricom has even been more bearish for this reason. You are building a flat here. We have a company, let's say, called ABC Limited. You are building a flat which you're already collecting rent. And that rent, you used it to build another flat. So the person looking at the bottom line will see that all the money you made in your first flat is already building the second one. So there will be no much profit. So our flat here is Ethiopia. We went to Ethiopia. Safaricom went to Ethiopia. Licenses alone. One license was 850 million USD. The other one was 150 million USD. You've already sunk 100 billion USD in Ethiopia on licenses alone. I have not talked about towers. They have done thousands of towers in Ethiopia. So that company, before it went to Ethiopia, because my main point is around valuation, in 2021, the share price was 45 shillings. And the market valuation of Safaricom PLC in 2021 was 1.8 trillion shillings. 2021. It has since invested in Ethiopia. Yes, it was bleeding, but the bleeding of cash in Ethiopia, according to Safaricom themselves, in the release of the last financial year, they are anticipating by next financial year, they are breaking even operationally. How convenient is this then, that we come just when Safaricom will start adding into the bottom line, and then, surprisingly, we want to sell our stake, but also basing it on the vagaries that Safaricom has gone through called markets. So in terms of PE ratio, Chair, Safaricom, the kind of profit they make this year, their PE ratio by March, because they closed